All right, so we're going to quickly discuss how to use this calculator, and it has a lot of really interesting features that hopefully will help you with the test. So the first thing to know how to use is the scratchpad. So to do that, you click this button here, and this just allows you to do basic calculations. So if you wanted to do, say, 3 plus 4, you do 3 plus 4, and then you push enter, which is right here, and it tells you that that is 7. And you could do any basic calculations. This part is fairly self-explanatory. So, you have the number pads here, you have your mathematical operators here, you have some other operators here, like for example, squaring something. So if I want to do 4 squared, you could do that. If I want to do 5 squared, and then I wanted to add something, now if I add it, notice that it actually jumps down to here already, and then plus 6, so that gives me 31. If I wanted to do, let's say, 4 to the third, and then I wanted to put a plus. Notice that in this case, it actually leaves me in the exponential. So in order to delete that, in order to fix that, I can click this button, delete here. And then if I want to drop down, I can push the right arrow to drop down, and then I could do plus 2. And that gives me the correct answer there. So you want to have basic knowledge of how to use these numbers here, these mathematical operators. Squaring something, we'll just put a to the second power. The caret symbol will allow you to put anything you want there. So if I do 6 and caret, it brings me to the exponential, and I put whatever I want there. And that's pretty much what you want to be able to do there. Next thing you want to be able to do is how to know how to use the previous entry. So if you scroll up, what you can do is you can push enter and you can get back what you previously had. And so that can be kind of useful, particularly when you have variable expressions. And then you would just push enter again to reevaluate it. So you just go up and then you click enter to do the previous thing. Now let's say I wanted to do 3 divided by 4. And I push enter. It gives me 3 divided by 4, which doesn't seem particularly useful. So if for whatever reason you wanted to actually figure out that 3 divided by 4 is 0.75, what you can do is you do 3 divided by 4, and then instead of pushing enter, what you could do is push control enter. And notice that by doing this, you're getting the approximation symbol, which is above enter here. And that will give you 0.75. So you want to know how to just use enter and then also use control enter, because that will give you an approximation. And so that's basically how to do the very simple mathematical operators. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to go to graphing. So to go to a graph, what you do is you push the scratchpad again, and that will actually toggle between the regular scratchpad and then the graphical one. So if you keep clicking it, it'll keep toggling between. And then you can enter a function here. So if I wanted to enter, let's say, x plus 6, push enter, I'll graph it. You can also change the window. You can also add another function. The way that you would do that is you'd push menu, and that will give you all the graphical menu items. And so if I wanted to enter another graph, for example, I can go to option 3, and then I can enter another function here. So let's say I wanted to enter, in this case, negative 2x minus 2. Enter. And that graphs that one. And so you can do that by clicking menu, and then you just go to graph entry edit. And that's how you can do that. You can also change the window. So if I wanted to change the window, you can zoom in, zoom out, do standard, which will give you 10 by 10, or from negative 10 to 10 in both directions, etc. So you can go ahead and do that. Those are the basic things. You also want to know how to click escape. That actually gets you out of there. And generally speaking, you're not going to have to use graphing all that much, but you could use it. I mean, you can also on here find things like, you could find the minimum, maximum, intersection, all that sort of stuff under Analyze Graph. So it's pretty self-explanatory in terms of how to navigate all those different things. Pretty much anything you need to do with regard to a graph would be in the menu when you're on the graph. And so that's kind of how you do that. One last note, actually, under graph entry edit, you can, in addition to entering functions, you can also enter equations. So if for whatever reason you wanted to enter the equation of a circle or something, although you typically would never need to do that, you could, in theory, do it. So anyway, that's how to graph. All right, so now we're going to use some of the more advanced features of the calculator. And to do that, let's go back to the normal scratchpad with all the just the basic stuff we can do. And in order to access the more advanced functionality, what we can do is, just like on graphing, we can click Menu to explore a lot of different features. Now, one thing you can actually do that's kind of useful is under probability. It allows you to do factorial, permutations, combinations, all that sort of stuff. And if I did permutations, for example, it allows me to do, say, 5 things, comma, with 3 slots, which is actually going to be 5 times 4 times 3, which is 60. So you have NPR, NCR, all that stuff is actually kind of useful. But the really big thing that's useful is under Menu, under Algebra. Now, by the way, in order to quickly get to it, rather than actually having to scroll down, I could just push 3, which actually brings me to Algebra, and then I can click option 1 to get to the solver. Now, for the solver, what you can do is you can pretty much solve any algebraic expression for a particular variable, so it's quite powerful. Let's actually try a really simple one first. Let's do 5 plus x equals 7. Now, if you push enter here, unfortunately, it won't actually solve that. You need to tell the calculator what you want to solve for. So you do comma x to indicate, okay, I want to solve for x. Then you push enter, and it tells me that x is 2, which is obvious. Now, if I wanted to reuse that, I could actually go back, push enter again, and I could actually change this a little bit. I can make it more complicated, for example. Let's say I wanted to do 2 divided by x. So 5 plus 2 divided by x equals 7, solve for x. Okay, that's a little bit more complicated, but now it tells me that x is 1, which in this case, maybe it was actually useful to be able to do that. So the solver can pretty much solve any algebraic expression. It can even actually solve cases where you want to solve in terms of other variables. So for example, let's say I put 5 plus 2x equals 7y. Solve for x. Enter. Okay, it solved it for x in terms of y, which seems kind of useful because sometimes the test will ask you to solve for something in terms of something else. You can even solve a system of equations using this type of method. What you can do is you click Menu, you go to Algebra, and then you go to Solve System of Equations, which is option 7. You could do a general system, or you could do specifically a linear system. Now, in most cases, you'll usually do a linear system, but you could potentially do a more general one. So say how many equations, which variables, you push OK, and then it's really nicely set up. You just put the 2 equations in. So I could put, for example, y equals 2x minus 6 down, and then y equals, let's say, 3x plus 2, enter, and then it gives me the intersection point. And that's kind of a faster way, rather than having to graph it and find the intersection. I could do it that way. Okay, now the last thing I want to explore is the math cheat sheet, which is in the calculator. And the way that you access that is by going to Doc, and then you want to open a file. So you would click option 1, which is File. Then you click Open Document, which is option 2. So in order to do this quickly, you would do Doc 1-2, and you're probably going to need to use that a lot. So you want to kind of practice that a little bit. And you can do Doc 1-2, and then there's the Zenith Math cheat sheet. You can push Enter, it will give you all the high-level categories here. It'll say number properties, algebraic equations and expressions, all this stuff. You can kind of drill down into it. So under algebraic equations and expressions, it'll say algebraic configuration, distribution, eliminating substitutions, exponents, etc. And so you can quickly navigate all the different things. And now if I were to click on one of them, let's say I were to click on more variables than equations, that would give me the primary bullet points for that particular category. Now, if I wanted to get back, what I can do is you can click Doc 1-2 again, and that will bring you back to the previous place. And so if you're able to categorize a particular math question, what you can do is you can, if you're really stuck, you can explore that particular category on your calculator and you will hopefully get some ideas for what you can actually do, because this cheat sheet not only gives you formulas, it also actually tells you, well, what situations should I use these formulas, and when, when can I actually do certain things, or what hints should I be looking for that indicate I should do a certain thing. And so that's how you use the math cheat sheet. Now, actually, one last thing. Let's get out of here. Let's go back to the scratchpad again. One last thing is that if you're kind of getting stuck and you're not sure where a particular mathematical symbol is, what you can do is you could push this little book thing, which is the catalog, and that actually gives you different functionality. So for example, here it says absolute value, and it actually sorts it by different things here. You can also click, for example, option 5 to go to there, or option 4 to go to there. And you can see pi, e, I. I mean, you're not going to need to use I, but or most likely you wouldn't. But you could use all these different mathematical symbols, numbers, operators, all that sort of stuff. And so that's where you can find the catalog. But primarily, you're mostly just going to be using the standard scratchpad, just in terms of just doing basic calculations. I mean, that's what usually most people use a calculator for. But you could use the solver, you could use graphing. Also, if you're really stuck in a particular question, you can use the math cheat sheet, which is available in full form here. And all that stuff is stored in this calculator, so it's a pretty powerful tool.